Hey, what's up Facebook, what's up YouTube? It is me, Reuben here, back with another Reuben report. And today I am going to finally be tearing down the bike. I decided to do this video in two sections because especially after all the comments that I've been receiving, basically the common theme has been top dead center, top dead center, top dead center. And so what I'm going to be doing today is I want to just show how the bike is torn down. From the very first time that I did this, there were, I was figuring things out. I was doing it for the very first time, and now that this will be my fifth time doing this, there's certain things that I learned along the way, certain processes that make the teardown process a lot easier, a lot quicker, a lot more efficient. So that's something that I want to document, especially for the folks out there who haven't done the valve adjustment yet, and I just want to put it like on record, out on the internet, that there's somebody out there who has an actual tutorial on how to do that. So first I'm going to be documenting exactly, bolt by bolt, screw by screw, what to undo and what not to. That's the first thing I want to do. And then secondly, once I get to the valves, I'm just going to show you guys how I find top dead center. Okay, and that process you guys can then show me if I'm doing that wrong, and I'll listen to your guys' feedback, and after I get the feedback, then I'll release part 2 of the video where I either make my corrections or just go ahead and adjust it the way I've been doing it, and we'll see what type of results we come out with. But all right, so now with that preface out of the way, for the folks who just want to skip ahead to the actual valve part, I'm going to leave a timestamp down below where you can actually get to that. But for now, we're just gonna step to the actual tutorial of how to take the bike apart. All right, so to take the bike apart, these are all the tools that you're gonna need. You're going to need a 6mm Allen key, a 5mm Allen key. You're going to need a screwdriver with a Phillips end, and you're also going to need a flathead screwdriver end, right? You're going to need a socket with a long extension, okay? And you see here I have variable length extensions put together. I just basically made it as long as possible. All right. You're going to need a 8mm wrench. This is an optional item. I would really suggest that you get this. This is a low profile flex head socket. Socket ratchet. So again, this isn't mandatory, but I would really highly recommend that you get this because it makes certain steps of this process a lot easier. And as far as the sockets are concerned, you need a 10mm Allen key. You're going to need a spark plug socket. You're going to need a 13mm socket. You're going to need an 8mm socket. The majority of the bolts that are on the bike are 8mm. And lastly, if you went ahead and replaced the valve cover bolts like I did, if you did that, then you're going to need a 10mm socket as well. But if you didn't and you still have the stock ones, okay, these are 8mm. They take an 8mm socket. Okay. And one other thing I want to note, when it comes to just a small little update from the last time that I did this, when I actually replaced the bolts, the only bolts that you need are the M6 1x25mm. You don't need the M6 20s. All of them are M6 25s. Okay, so to do this, if you guys have seen my little update that I did not too long ago, I told you guys that I actually got a chest mount for my GoPro camera. So I'm going to show it to you guys here. All right. So there, I'm going to be switching cameras to that view so you guys get to go with me step by step as I do this and watch how I do things, okay? And hopefully you guys can get everything that you need to get. All right guys, here we go. This is going to be the first step. We are going to be using an 8mm ratchet. The first step that we're going to be doing is unlocking the rear seat. You're going to remove the passenger seat, and then underneath the passenger seat you're going to find 2 screws that are 8mm bolts. Pretty much the slogan, especially if you have the stock fasteners on the bike all around, when in doubt, pull the 8mm out. All right, just remember that. If you see a hex bolt anywhere on the frame or anywhere on the bike, it's most likely an 8mm bolt. Okay, and if not, then it'll be a 13mm in certain areas, like for the tank or for the chain adjusters. But in most instances, just remember that when in doubt, pull the 8mm out. Okay, and once we get this seat off, that's going to give us access to the gas tank bolts. All right. And I'm walking around with my phone in my hand, mainly because my phone, I have an app on my phone that allows me to see the view that the camera is having, so I can actually see what you guys are seeing. So now I'm swapping, just like I was stating before, the gas tank has a 13mm bolt on it, so I swapped to the 13mm socket. Okay, and I'm taking that bolt off right now. But yeah, as I was saying, you know, the little app that I have on my phone basically gives me a live feed image of what you guys are seeing. So anytime you guys see my phone in my hand or I have my phone near me, I'm constantly checking just to make sure that, you know, you guys are able to see everything. All right, so that bolt came with like a washer underneath it. You want to take the bolt and the washer in one piece. Next step is going to get the 5mm Allen key. Okay, and 5mm Allen key is going to be necessary for all those hex bolts that are bolting from the fenders onto the gas tank. So it's really key here. We're only going to be unbolting the screws that are bolted into the gas tank. Okay, and once we have those free, we'll be able to take the gas tank right on out. So it's just those 2 hex bolts, and you guys got to really be careful because these guys have little plastic pieces on them, and then you're about to see. All right, once I take this one out, I kind of drop. Yeah, I dropped the plastic piece, so you know, make sure you don't lose those. Okay, I've already lost one. I'm just being so you know. Make sure you guys don't lose those, because it keeps your fairings from getting, you know, scratched up. I mean, to each their own. I don't really care too much, but yeah, don't lose those. So now I'm doing the same thing for the other side. Okay, and once again, once we have these 2 free, or really 4, we'll be able to wiggle the gas tank free. Alright, once again, make sure you take care of those plastic pieces. And I'm not sure, but this one might be the one that doesn't have the plastic piece, because again, I lost it. Oh, I didn't even show it. Alright. So now we're going to try to get this gas tank free, And underneath the gas tank, there's going to be 2 electrical connections that you're going to have to undo. But first, when you're picking it up and sliding it, like grab it from the bottom and kind of like pull it towards you, and it should just, you know, slide right on out. Okay, as you guys can see, there's that first electrical connection right there. You just push down on that tab, all right, and then just push them apart. And then the last one is going to be way down there. Go ahead, pull that out. Okay, and then the gas tank, it's still not free, but you're just able to reposition it a little bit better. All right, and then I set this down because I want to talk to you guys about something, a little idea I had. All right. Alright guys, I switched the cameras just for a short little period of time because there's 2 steps that 2 things I also forgot. Okay, 1, make sure you get a bowl for all of your you know, fasteners, and then 2, when it comes, now that we're at the point where we're going to be removing the gas tank, okay, it would be nice if you had a gas can. What I'm gonna attempt to do, this is actually the first time that I'm actually doing this as far as emptying the gas out. I usually have just let the gas tank sit around and then it just spills all the gas out over time. But what I'm going to attempt to do is I'm just going to attempt to use my little funnel over there and try to capture all the gas in the gas can so that way I don't waste gas. So I'm going to show you guys how I do that, or I'm going to attempt to do that, but I think I might be successful. So we'll see. Alright, so here we go. We're going to try to take this gas tank off. Underneath, what you're going to find, so the fuel hose assembly, which if you guys are following along, my fuel hose assembly actually broke the first time that I did the valve adjustment because I accidentally dropped the tank. And as you guys can also see, that's why the tank is damaged, has a dent in it, and is a bit scratched up. But so that's basically what has led me to take the gas tank off every single time I do a valve adjustment now. But while we take the gas tank off from underneath, there's going to be 2 hoses that need to be disconnected to completely take it off. One is an overflow hose. So that very first hose, that really long one, that's like touching the hose that I'm messing with right now, don't worry about that one. You don't have to undo that one. But this one right here, don't undo it from down there. Actually undo it from the other, from that little canister. You're gonna spill gas regardless. That's just a part of the game. Okay. But yeah, that overflow hose, don't worry about that. It's really, really long. It just comes straight off. Now that one is connected to a little canister down beneath, so be careful with pulling this hose right here, because if it doesn't come off very easily, it might snap. And it actually, for me, it snapped right here. But don't worry, you can just cut it off and put it back on. It's not that big of a deal. All right, and once you do have the gas tank free, now I am figuring out how I'm trying to position the gas tank to have it drain the gas into the gas can. And the reason why I came up with this, solution was mainly because, I mean, as you can see, regardless of what you do, the tank's gonna leak gas. No matter what you do, you take the gas tank off the bike, it's gonna leak gas everywhere. So I just thought to myself, instead of just having it sit to the side for over a day and just, I just waste all my gas, how about I do the best that I can to, save some of the gas so that way I can actually put gas back in the bike and start it up. you know, after I'm done with this whole process. Because, you know, before I would just set it in a corner and it would just drain all the gas out. But I'm fiddling around with this. I finally decided, I'm like, you know what? And after it falls down a couple times, I'm just like, you know what? Let me just get a smaller funnel, right? Should have started with a smaller funnel to begin with. I thought the bigger funnel was going to be better because the gas spilling, it kind of comes out in a wide splash. But if it's not going to stay put, I'm just going to use a smaller funnel. So smaller funnel, and you go. And yeah, we're going to do our best to get most of the gas inside the gas tank. And which is exactly what happened. I mean, still got gas on the floor, still spilled gas, but at least I have something. At least I have most of my gas and not none of my gas. And as I was saying before, this is the first time that I'm doing this. So as I continue to do these valve adjustments, I might find out a better method later down the line. Might document it. But as of right now, this will do. But as you guys can see, the majority of the gas is pouring into the funnel, but you have that like little runoff effect, you know, when you pour certain things in certain ways. I'll just have to fumble around with it to see what works the best later down the line. But I am quite happy though that by the time this is all over, I'll put the tank back on the bike and then just pour the gas in, fire her up, and be ready to ride. And once it was empty enough, I was able to turn it completely upside down. I'm thinking if I started with doing that, maybe that would have been better. Well, we'll just have to see. I don't know what works, what doesn't work. And by the way, I did not start with a full tank this time. My tank was at the level that you saw of the video where I did, you know, my bike is running like crap. It was like a 1 bar. So 1 bar could be 2 gallons, maybe 2 gallons, maybe 1.5 gallons. Who knows? The gas gauges are not very accurate to begin with. Alright, once I got pretty much all the gas out, or yeah, it just keeps draining. Once I got all the gas out, I put that down and then we continue on. I'm just gonna get these last little driplets out. I'm trying to get every last drop. You know, y'all, maybe y'all have, maybe you've seen or maybe you haven't seen, but you know, these gas prices here in California, man, I gotta get every last drop. Okay, so we're done with that. And you guys can't see inside, but it was maybe like it's a 4-gallon can, so it was probably like a third of the way full. I would say it was like 1.5 gallons, maybe 1.5 gallons was in there. I'm not completely sure, but I think it's a 5-gallon can. It's a 5-gallon can, and it was like a fourth or a third of the way full. Got a little bit of weight to it. And yeah, a lot of the gas spilled, but the thing about gasoline, it evaporates very quickly, and we will see later on in this video that big old wet spot is going to be gone in like 10 minutes. Okay, so now that the gas tank's been removed and the majority of the gas has been salvaged and not wasted, go ahead and continue on. I think I'll pick up the screwdriver. Yep, I'll pick up the screwdriver here, Phillips head, and we're going to start removing the rest of the fenders. Now, in my original video, I removed one extra bolt that I really just didn't have to. Okay, so when it comes to this bottom fender here, you really only need to undo 2 bolts. Okay, we just need to, mainly the goal here is to get the big white fenders off. So not these lower ones. These lower ones, they don't matter. You can keep them on the bike. You just want to make way to get the bigger ones off, because those are the ones that are in your way. So I undo these 2 screws there and there. You guys can't really see it, but you can kind of see it. It's right there. And they are Phillips heads. And all those tiny screws, they're all the same size. So for all the fairings that have those little tiny screws, don't worry if you mix them up. They're all the same size. So you can just put them back on later on without having to worry too much about it. Okay, so just like I was saying, our mission is to get the bigger fenders off. So all we have to do is just take the lower fender or move it out the way, so that way we can get in there with our Allen key. And this is a 5mm Allen key, the same one that we use for the rest of the fender bolts. And that comes right on out. This one does not have a washer, and that's important to note because later on there's going to be another bolt that does have a washer. Don't want to get those two mixed up. All right, so now 2 more bolts. In my original video there was 3 bolts, but or I shouldn't say bolts, 3 screws, but you really only need to undo these 2 screws. Just one on the top, and then another one that I'm going to point to. You guys won't be able to see it, but I'll put my finger right on it in just a second. Right there. All right. And with those free, you should, well, actually, no, there's supposed to be one other bolt on the left side of my bike. That bolt is missing. It just decided to get up and leave, so my RX3 doesn't have that extra bolt on the inside anymore. On the right side it's still there, and I will document how to get that one off.
Alright, so on the right side it's the same thing. Same bolts, well, same screws in the same spots. I keep saying bolts. Yeah, same screws in the same spots. Same thing. We're just going to undo these 2 screws here so we can gain access to the 1 hex bolt holding in the big fender. All we need to focus on is taking off the big fender. So we just move this little piece out of the way. We can keep it on the bike. You don't have to remove it completely. Just move it out the way so that way we can get to the bolts holding the fenders. I went ahead and just went for these 2 screws first instead of going for the bolt underneath, because I mean I have the screwdriver in my hand, might as well get the rest of the screws. Alright, same spots. It's all in the same spots as the other side. And then we swap to the hex key to get this one out. And in a little bit, I'm going to show you guys that 1 bolt I was talking about. That's on the inside. And I'm going to be swapping cameras because I can't really show you guys with the chest camera. Okay, but I pointed to it with my finger. Give me 1 second.
I'm switching to my phone camera so you guys can see this 1 bolt a lot better, because I couldn't really get in there with my other one. Alright, sorry for the sloppy camera movement, guys, but I hope that angle was okay. Yeah. Yeah, this one is always tricky to get back on, and this actually I lost this one on the other side, so didn't need to do it for the other side. Alright. Back to the other camera.
Alright, we're back on to the other camera now. We're going to continue on with this process. We're making good ways. And now on the right side of the bike, it's very important to note, we still have to, before we yank it off, we got to get that coolant reservoir out of there. Same really small screws that are the same as all the other screws for the fender. So once again, if you get these mixed up, don't worry, they're all the same size. You can just interchange them, don't worry too much about it, okay? But once you get this loose, what I like to do is I like to kind of wedge the coolant reservoir up underneath the little cabling on my handlebar. As you guys can see, I kind of sticking up in there so it doesn't keep falling down and getting in the way. You know, it generally likes to stay there and stay put, but sometimes if I jerk on the handlebars a little bit too much, it might wiggle free. But I don't know if you guys noticed, but a quick little glimpse, maybe I'll walk past it one more time, but that big old wet spot that was there with the gas, yeah, it's almost gone now. We might be able to see it here in a second. Yeah. Anyway, I swapped back to the 8mm. See, that wet spot gone. I swapped back to the 8mm because we are going to be now removing the well, not removing, but kind of moving the radiators out of the way. And this is also really important to have a really long extension, because it's really easy to go straight to the crash bar down to that little bolt down there. All right, simple. Once the bolt is free, very important to don't let the little green washer that the bolt sits in fall out. Okay, take them both out as one unit, as you can see. Same thing, especially for the last bolt that you take out. The whole radiator is going to want to fall a bit, so be careful. Don't let that bolt just fall out and the washer just fall out, because you don't want to lose it. There's been many times, especially where I had to do this in the dark, and it just wasn't fun having to look around my garage for that bolt and that little washer. So here you see I'm being very careful taking them out. Make sure they stay together as one unit. All right, cool. And now with that out of the way, I want to show you guys a new process. All right.
All right, I stopped the recording on my chest camera because I wanted to make sure you guys see this back here. So let me get in here. All right, so that bolt right there. So I'm just gonna back up a little bit. Yeah, that bolt right there. That's the bolt that you're gonna want to undo. And the reason why I say make sure you have a really, really long extension, because you're going to go straight through here like so, and get right onto that bolt. Okay. Now this step, if you have the optional flex head wrench, because as you can see underneath that radiator hose over there, it's hard to see. Underneath that radiator hose is one of the vault cover bolts. So if you actually undo this here, and I'm going to show you the other bolt that you undo on the other side once you remove the other radiator, we're actually able to move this whole this whole black piece a lot more freely to get the ratchet up in there. Allow us to get that valve cover bolt off a lot easier than using a wrench. We'll go ahead and go back to the other camera now.
Okay guys, so that very bolt that I was talking about, we're going to go ahead and take that out. And as we take it out, there's going to be one, like I said before, there's one on this side, there's one on the other side. This one that's on this side should be the one that's quite long, so you don't get them mixed up. One is quite longer than the other, which we will see. Yeah, so this one's a long one. All right, don't get that mistaken with like a valve cover bolt, or I mean, if you change the valve cover bolts like I did, you won't, but yeah, don't get that mistaken with a valve cover bolt or with the other side. Okay, I switched to the screwdriver because before we can undo the radiator bolts on the left side of the bike, we have to take the hose off, and I'm going to show you in a minute why we have to take the hose off. I'm just going to go ahead and do so. Okay, so undo that little worm clamp,
And a pro tip, when you put the warm coolant back on, put it back in that position just like I just showed you, because that lets you remove it a lot easier the next time you do it. Okay? You don't have to like fish for it. So put pressure, like push down where my fingers are right now. Just push down and then wiggle. Keep pushing down, and that allows the hose to come off a whole lot easier than trying to pry it from the top. Okay, be careful because there's coolant in there, so you know, just get it up and out of the way. And I'm about to show you guys why it is that you want to, you know, take that hose off. Okay. All right, I just want to switch cameras again because I want to show you guys why it's so important to remove this hose. Because as you can see, this metal neck here, it's right on top of that bolt in the back that we need to get to. So we have to move the hose out of the way so that way we can get the ratchet right underneath there, just like that, and then loosen the radiator. Okay. Once we've got this loose, we can put the radiator hose back on. We don't need to leave it off. Okay, so here we go. We're going to be taking off that bolt, and that bolt right underneath where I was talking about. These extensions really are your friend. It makes this whole job very easy. You can go through the crash guard, you can, you know, be far away. You don't have to be cramming in there and having your ratchet, you know, knock up against stuff. Just get the longest extension you can find and it'll make unbolting a lot of these things quite easy. Okay, but same deal, make sure you take out that little green piece. All right, you don't want it falling down and getting lost. Okay, very important. And then once you've done that, go ahead and put the hose back together. You don't have to put the clamp back on, just put the hose back together. So that way coolant doesn't start spilling all over the place. All right. And then down below, same thing as the other side. Go straight through the crash guard and you can get to that other bolt. All right, got that bolt out, and now we just move the radiator slightly out of the way. I actually go for the valve cover bolt first, I believe. Yeah, so we got to switch to the 10 millimeter because once again, I change my valve cover bolts. So if you have the stock ones, it's still going to be 8 millimeter, but I change them to a much stronger, much better, more durable bolts because of the issue that I had with stripping my other ones. So got in there just like so, and this is why it's so important to have that extension. Okay, I'm going to show you in a minute. Yeah, I just wanted to really illustrate what I did here. So this is why it's so important to have a really long extension. Excuse me. So that way you could, you know, get to that valve cover bolt, right, by going basically through the forks, and you have that leverage. And then on the other side, we're going to use the flexible ratchet. Okay. We're finishing taking out this valve cover bolt, and once I these valve cover bolts, the reason why I replaced them, if you guys were following along, there's a video I have out called CSC RX3 Reliability Check. I actually rounded out my old valve cover bolts, trying to remove them with a certain wrench that I had. So I replaced them with grade 10.9 bolts. These bolts have immense tensile strength, and it's really going to take like an act of God to have these bolts rounded out. All right, that's what they look like. Very, very high quality, very, very high grade steel. And the next bolt that I'm going to be taking out is the one bolt I kind of shortly talked about on the other side.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot, guys. That other bolt that I was talking about on the other side of the bike, it's right down in there. Okay, you undo that bolt, it's going to allow you to move. Once we get to the other side, it'll make more sense. But this is going to allow us to move that big thing out of the way. It's going to also allow us to have better clearance with the flat, small flexible head socket. Okay. Okay, guys, we're going to remove this bolt, and after we remove this bolt, that's pretty much it as far as getting stuff out of the way to be able to access the valve covers. And as you can see, we're like 40 minutes into this. It takes basically more than half of the job is getting access to the valves, but once you're actually there, the job gets pretty simple after that. But we'll get to right. Well, that's if you actually get it on the right setting. But anyway, yeah, we undo that one last bolt, and again, we see it right here. It's very short, so be careful to not let it just drop on you. Well, yeah, it's very, very short. Okay, don't get those mixed up. But alright, so like I said, that's pretty much it for getting stuff out of the way to get to the valves. Now we're just going to be focusing on removing the valve covers and using the tools necessary to get to the valve covers. Alright, so this was the optional tool that I suggested that you get, the Flex Head Flow Profile Ratchet. And you guys will see this thing in action. It's very handy and the reason why I use this now instead of like the wrench, because I'm also able to tighten the bolts down a little bit tighter. I don't want to put it too tight, but that was probably the main issue of why the other bolts got rounded out, because it just couldn't, catch on with the pressure. But when you're able to put that socket on there, you get 6 points of contact and a lot more leverage. And when you have bolts that don't round themselves, you get a consistent grip every time. All right, I'm going to zoom in again. So with this loose, this allows us to move this freely. That gives us a lot more clearance to get the flat, flexible flex head screwdriver in there. And then it's on that, it's on that valve cover bolt down there. So it's just easy. Whoops. Yeah, it's just, easy twisting it off at that point. So I'm gonna go. My camera here is dying, so I'm gonna go swap the battery, and I'll be right back. Okay. All right, we are all juiced up, back with a fresh battery, and we get right back in here with you guys. Right back on that one bolt. It's, in all honesty, it's really the front facing valve cover, the exhaust valve cover, that is the most pain. Okay, but with this, I think this is kind of, at least for me, it's the easiest method to try to get it out. And pretty much because the clearance is such a huge deal, huge issue, and the bolts are quite long as well, which really doesn't help. Basically what you want to do is you just want to break it free and maybe screw it out just a little bit, get the ratchet out of there, and then just do the rest by hand. It's going to take you a little bit, but it's loose enough to be able to just take it right on out. Okay, and you know what, I probably should have done this in this video, but I would suggest you guys actually take the bolt on, you know, the side that I'm actually doing right now. Take that one out first and then do the other one after, because when you still have tension on the cover on the other side, the bolt is a lot easier to come out. And as you guys can see, randomly the coolant reservoir just fell down in your guys' face and in your guys' view because I was bumping up against the handlebars too much. All right, so I moved up out of the way, away from the handlebars, so it wouldn't rattle free, and I just kept on wiggling that bolt free with my hands, and I make sure that I don't drop the cover. Okay, now once you actually do get that bolt out and that cover off, the valve covers, they are not interchangeable. I repeat, they are not interchangeable. So make sure you take note of the little code that's on the inside and don't get it mixed up. Okay? Don't get it mixed up. So that one is for the exhaust intake. Well, I don't even know if it's called an exhaust intake, but that's just the exhaust side. All right, for the intake side, we're going back to our extension. And again, we're using the 10 millimeter because I changed my bolts, whereas if you have the stock ones, they will be 8 millimeter. And for the intake side, it's really simple. You just get right down in there with the extension and get them on out. Easy peasy. Yeah, the majority of the work is trying to get access to the exhaust valve cover. But with the intake valve cover, all you gotta do is just remove the seats, take the gas tank off, and you're there. Okay, and voila, we are open. And again, reading that code in there, making sure that you don't get them mixed up. Okay. Take notes. All right, so now we're going to swap to the 10 millimeter Allen key. Oh, never mind. My bad. We're going to take the spark plug out. That's what we're going to do first. Okay. So yeah, let's get that spark plug. Again, if you have the extension, everything is easy when you have the extension. If you don't have an extension, get one. All right, you get down in there with the extension and then you just start twisting and it should come right free. Okay. takes a little while. The threads on the spark plug are pretty long. It's like a lot of threads. You'll see it in a second. And we'll also see in what shape the spark plug is in. Alright. Lots of threads. And it's the NGK, just the same spark plug I had in my MPG improvement test video. I have the Iridium NGK spark plug. Put that down right there. Alright, now we get the 10mm Allen key, huh? And we're going to take off the, I'm going to get my chair real quick first, and then we're going to take off the cover to, well, what do you call that? The engine crankcase? Maybe, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's a little cover right there. We're going to take that off. And underneath there, we're going to still use the same 10mm Allen key to spin the engine over to get it into the right position for us to adjust the valves. And then we're going to use our 6mm Allen key, okay, to take off the peephole that shows you the different timings of the engine. So that's the little hole that we're going to look through to see whether or not the engine's on top dead center. And it takes a 6mm Allen to take off that little. Now mine was snugged on a little bit tight, so I had to reposition the Allen key to use a little bit more leverage. But once you get it off, you'll be able to see in there while you spin the engine over to see whether or not you're going to be in line. Alright. And we finally got it free. And that's it. That's the last of it. The bike is ready to be inspected and set for a valve adjustment.
Alright guys, so we made it. We tore down the bike completely, got everything stripped down to where we needed it to be, and we've done it a lot more efficiently than the very first time I ever done this. So now we're to the part where I actually find out where top dead center is. Okay, so if there's an area where I'm doing this wrong, this is going to be the area where I'm doing it wrong. But before we get into you know, my process, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a little video clip from CSC, which is pretty much how I learned how to find top dead center. Okay.
How's it going, guys? Joey Ducat here from CSC Motorcycles, and in today's video we're going to show you how to adjust your valves on your SG and TT250. Get familiar with the parts of the valve train. The exhaust valve is in the front and the intake valve is in the back. The spinning camshaft push on lifters, which in turn push rods. Now the push rods activate rocker arms. The rocker arms open the valves. The valve springs close the valves. The valves need to be adjusted when they are completely closed. The distance between the rocker and the valve is what we're adjusting. Transversely mounted engines spin in the same direction as the wheels do going forward. Always spin the engine counterclockwise. When spinning the engine, look for the intake valve to open and close. The next time you see the T mark in the timing hole, the engine will be at top dead center of the compression stroke. This is when both intake and exhaust valves are closed.
Alright, so from that video clip, just a little backstory. Some of you guys know, some of you guys don't know, but my very first motorcycle was the TT250. I am brand new to motorcycles, okay? Well, maybe not brand new. I've been riding about 6 months now. But my very first motorcycle was a TT250, and watching that video to adjust the valves for my TT250, I didn't have it for very long, but I did need to do a valve adjustment on it. And I learned how to do valve adjustments by watching that video. And I assumed, maybe I'm wrong for doing this, but I assumed basically the same principle applied when it came to adjusting the valves for the RX3. Or maybe even for all motorcycles. I'm not sure. But regardless, again, if there's an area where I'm wrong in this whole process, this is probably it. But nonetheless, I'm going to show you how it is that I go through that process and what it is that I look for. Okay, so pretty much just like what was shown in the video, what I do is I go ahead and I spin the motor just like they said in a counterclockwise rotation. And what I watch for is I watch as the valves, you know, go up and down. Okay, sorry, out of focus. All right, I watch the intake and I watch the exhaust. All right. I'm watching. Okay. And I just keep on spinning it until both valves are closed, or it went through a full cycle. And then once it goes back onto the intake, you know, goes back up and moves again, that's when I go down and try to look for top to center. But I'm gonna go ahead and maybe I'll switch to the other camera so that way you guys can, because I can't be holding with my camera with this one hand. Let me switch back to the other camera. Alright, I switched back to my phone because you guys really can't see anything with the other camera. But I'm spinning it and I'm watching as the valves move. It's hard to see, but the exhaust valves just moved. And now I'm watching the intake. They're moving. And they're back up. So now I'm going to go ahead and look for top dead center. Okay, give me a minute. Oh my goodness. Oof. Hold on, let me turn on the camera light. Alright, so I'm gonna turn it ever so slowly. And it's right there, okay? Oh. Alright. Whoops. There you go. Right there. Top dead center. So as you guys saw, I pretty much just followed exactly what that video from CSC for the TT250. Again, I may be wrong for assuming that the RX3 process is the same, but this is just so far how I've been doing it, because, you know, again, there's no video out for the RX3 or even for the RX4 or any of the other bikes that CSC offers that show you specifically how to find top dead center. Neither is it shown on the printout. It's not shown in the you know, owner's manual or even in the tutorial that's online. All right, so oh my back. All right, well, that's how I find top dead center. I'm gonna go ahead and post this video. I'm gonna put some of this stuff back together so I just don't have, you know, exposed motor, and I'll leave it still stripped down. I'm just gonna put, you know, some of the covers back on, and yeah, I'll listen to you guys' feedback. If I'm doing it wrong, all right, let me know, and if I'm not, well, I'm gonna go ahead and go along with the valve adjustment, and then we'll just see what happens during the actual valve adjustment. Okay.